And for anyone coming in, I am sending the link around. So I'm just sending it to everyone right now. I am currently just inviting people in. One moment here. One moment here. As you can see, the Virginia results are already coming in. Okay, let's see. Thank you. Okay, yeah, there's plenty of races to cover today. So we have a lot of different elections. It looks like New Jersey is already coming in pretty heavy. That is not the results you'd want to see if you were Jack. Oh man, I did not prepare to pronounce his name. But Italian Republican in the race, that is not the type of results you'd want to be seeing right now. Let me send this out to a few more people really quick. Okay, let me bring in a few more people here. Only 2 watching right now. That's not good enough. So I got to bring in some people. Got to get that up to like 3 or 4. Okay. So big results in from Virginia already. As you can see, there is already a call for the race. The Democrat won. This is a big flip for the Democrats. And as we can see here, it was by more than 10% of the vote, with 64% of the votes in. We're still going to have to wait and see how much more the difference will be in the end. But it's been a big shift from just 1 year ago in 2024, where we got the big drop showing that Harris was not performing as well in Virginia as Biden did in 2020. Every single county, with the exception of maybe a couple here or there, looks like they shifted from 2024 to the Democrats. This is a pretty resounding win for Abigail Spanberger, the Democrat in the race, and it's a pretty significant shift from the 2021 race, in which the Republicans did win this race with Glenn Youngkin. Another big thing is there were 2 other statewide races in Virginia. Let's see if we can get that results up here. There were 2 other very important races. Lieutenant governor race with Ghazala Hashmi defeating John Reed. I believe that hasn't exactly been called yet, but it looks like it's all but called. This was expected to be a little bit closer than the governor race, but as you can see here, while it is closer, the Democrat already has a good 150,000 vote lead, which I would find very hard for the Republican to catch up on. Now, what was expected to be the very competitive race of this election was the Attorney General race in which there were some text messages that were sent out by Jay Jones, the Democratic AG candidate, that were pretty scandalous. So as you can see here, it did tighten the race a lot. But if we were to finish the election as of right now with no more votes to count, the Democrat would still win the election. And as we can see, a lot of the counties that have come in right now, in comparison to the final result, looks like a lot of this Republican red wall area of the western part of Virginia has already been counted. I mean, a lot of these counties, 95% in, 80% in. And we still have a lot of counts and a lot of ballots to count in Fairfax County, which is where Alexandria is, and a lot more votes to count in Richmond, which is I believe the capital of Virginia. But a lot of results coming in. This would not be what you'd want if you were the incumbent Attorney General, Jason Miyares. And it looks like a flip. Even in the closest race, the Democrats were able to win in the Attorney General race. Now, for New Jersey, we have the live results, and there's only 20% of the vote in. There's a lot of votes that need to be counted. We're going to be pulling up a 2021 New Jersey governor map. I'm going to pull up the New York Times exact same map here to show. Don't want any of these trash sources. I want the best coverage. Oh, no, it's giving me 2021, 2025. Here we go. So I'm going to try to do a split screen to directly compare. So bear with me here. And it's very crucial to see the county by county results as we get the election results in. So we can make predictions extra early if we make direct comparisons to areas that have already been counted. That's going to be the most interesting part of these results here, seeing these county by county results. So, oh, wow. It's not letting me see the map unless I zoom out here. Okay, so we need to get this map here. And then as you can see, 46% of the votes have been counted in Hudson County. In comparison to 2021, which the Democrat did win, Phil Murphy was the Democratic candidate, facing the same Republican candidate, Jack Ciattarelli. It was a pretty close election, as you could see. It's looking like that the Democrat is actually outperforming the Democratic margin in 2021. We still have to wait until every vote is counted, of course, but if you compare directly, so let's look at Bergen County here, 73 or 60% for Mickey Sherrill. It was 52% for Phil Murphy in 2021. So this is a direct comparison. When it comes to the gubernatorial results, the turnout is pretty similar to what you'd expect in an off-year election. So it isn't like comparing the 2024 results. So this is much more of a one-to-one comparison. And as you can see with both maps, every single county looks like it's a little bit tighter and better for the Democrat. Now, this could be a little bit of a mirage, as a lot of these early ballots that are being counted may be mail-in votes, which Democrats are more likely to vote using mail-in votes. So it could tighten up a little bit here, but as of right now, I would really not want to be Jack Ciattarelli in his repeat bout for the New Jersey governor, as he is really behind in what you would need to get to win this election. So there's a few other elections that are going to be interesting today, other than Virginia and New Jersey, of course. Virginia, we've already gotten most of the results that we need to see. Direct call by the governor, direct call that Abigail Spanberger has officially flipped the gubernatorial race. So that is an extremely big flip for Democrats. And New Jersey, it looks like it's going to be a Democratic hold for governor. But it could be a little bit closer than what the current results are showing, as we have more ballots to count in a few different both red and blue counties, but probably more election day ballots that need to be counted. We still have the New York mayoral race. And if you're wondering why these results aren't in yet, my understanding is that their polls don't close until 9 p.m. Eastern time. So we still have another 14 minutes of the polls being open. So if you're still in New York, you got to stay in line because you could still vote for 15 minutes. But other than that, California has Prop 50, which is a pretty big ballot initiative, which would essentially allow Democrats to redistrict the state in a way that would net more seats. They did this as a response to Texas choosing to do it legislatively. I believe the polls would close for this at 11 p.m. Eastern time. So that is going to be 8 p.m. California time in another 2 hours. So we still have plenty of time for people to vote. A lot of people still have to hit the polls there for that election to be seen. Now, this result in Virginia is very important to look into because, as you can see here, this is a massive flip from both 2021 gubernatorial race, which I'm going to pull up right now, 2021 Virginia gubernatorial election. And I'm going to get the New York Times because their maps just tend to be the best. No bias in their reporting or anything like that. It's really, it just tends to be, their maps just tend to be the best and the easiest to translate back and forth between tabs, in my opinion. And as you can see here, the Republicans won this race. It was a very close election between former Governor Terry McAuliffe and now incumbent Governor Glenn Youngkin. And they won by around 2% of the vote. That is a massive flip. With 70% of the vote in, there's nothing that the Republican could do to catch up. And while the map looks pretty similar in terms of counties, you can see that there's been massive shifts. So in Clark County, for instance, Spanberger won 44% of the vote, and Terry McAuliffe only won 36%, 37% if you round up. So that is a massive shift in ballots. A lot more people coming out to support the Democratic nominee here. If we look at any other county, even let's see this very red county out here, Lee County, 13%. Well, it's only a 1% shift out there, so not too much of a difference into very rural Western Virginia. But this is a big flip county, Chesapeake, on the Virginia beach side of the state, a little bit more of a bellwether area of the state. In 2021, it was voting Republican. In 2025, it's now voting for the Democrat by a small margin. So this entire area, I believe, kind of a wealthy area, is flipping a suburban area of Norfolk, Virginia. Pretty big differences. And you can see the blue areas in this other map are a lot bluer here. And that's like an indicative shift of around 10%, if not higher in some of these cities. I mean, Harrisburg, that's a 15% or a 10% shift just in the vote, which nets into a 20% shift overall. If the Democrat is 10% higher, it means there was a 20% shift overall in the proportion of the vote, which is pretty significant, especially because, as you can see here, the margins of who's voting is pretty similar. The total amount going to probably be around 3.2 million, exactly like 2021. These are highly engaged midterm voters, but it's looking like a massive swing to the Democrats overall in Virginia. A lot of federal workers do work in this Alexandria region, and as federal workers have been heavily affected by different elements of this administration, you can see a lot of them coming out and voicing their voices through the polls in this gubernatorial race. That would be one of the things that I think is pretty key. Another thing, we can look at the race in Virginia in 2021, or no, not 2021, in 2024. So let's see if we can get the direct state results from Virginia here and make a direct comparison. As you can see here with this map, I'm gonna, the zoom isn't gonna work for me here, but it's kind of hard to see. But as you can see, there's a lot of these counties that Harris did win that are bluer in this map. And there's even a couple counties that Trump won that it looks like Spanberger was able to win. So Spotsylvania County, that is a very interesting name for a county. It looks like there was a big flip for the Democrats compared to their 2024 numbers, which was just last year. Now, I don't exactly like to compare presidential results with gubernatorial results in an off-year election, because the type of people that turn out in these gubernatorial elections are usually different. There's usually less people, and they're more highly engaged voters that turn out in midterms. And as you can see here, the total amount of people who vote in 2024, when it was Harris versus Trump, 4.4 million people voted. Now it's probably going to be closer to 1 million less, maybe 1.2 million less. Probably around 3.2 million people will vote when all is said and done. So the margins are very different, and the manner of who's voting may be different as well. So it's not always the best to make a direct comparison. It's usually better to use direct comparison on the gubernatorial results. So we can go back to New Jersey, where we can look here now. No call on this race yet, but there's 32% of the ballots in, and we're starting to get more counties. And we can make this direct comparison here. So probably about 1/3 of the ballots are in. So it's looking like if this is accurate, there might be more votes cast in New Jersey in 2025 than there were in 2021. And that could play a big factor into who was winning this election, because it seemed like the Democratic turnout in 2021 for such what people could normally consider New Jersey to be a blue state was pretty stunted, only winning by barely 3% of the vote. A lot of the polling kind of missed this race. People expected to be more like a pretty dominant victory for incumbent Governor Murphy. And Ciattarelli was able to make it very close. Republicans kind of saw him as a shining star. Even the 2024 margin in New Jersey was quite close. So we're going to pull up New Jersey right now in our 2024 result. New Jersey, traditionally a blue state, was only a 6% margin, which is quite close for a presidential race. And as you can see right now, if current trends hold, the governor in this gubernatorial race, Mickey Sherrill, has a pretty significant chance of outperforming Kamala Harris in a race that was expected to be pretty close. So we're going to have to wait for these more Republican areas and election day votes to come in. My understanding is we're experiencing a little bit of a blue mirage where we see the early voting come in first, the early votes and the mail-in votes come in first. Those tend to be more Democratic, and the election day votes, which tend to be more Republican, come in. Those are going to start coming in, and it's going to shift the results to be a little bit closer than what we're seeing right now. But that is a very steep margin to catch up on, and Ciattarelli might not have enough ballots to catch up. Now, don't think we're going to need to see Prop 50 anytime soon, but that'll be a pretty interesting result. There might be some local elections that are also occurring that I'd want to discuss as well. Maine might be having some votes come in. This looks like a voter ID law. It looks like as of right now, only 13% of the votes are in, but that could be rejected. That's a pretty key thing to look for. Voting ID tends to be a pretty polarizing issue on how different people look at it, but that's something that we'll have to investigate as the night goes on. In addition here, let's look at new protective orders restricting weapons. That looks like a ballot referendum on something related to gun rights. protective orders restricting weapons. That looks like it's passing as of right now. Let's see some other elections that are happening. I just wanted to kind of show everything that's going on. Looks like there's kind of a interesting couple of ballot initiatives in Colorado. Let's see if Minnesota has any results in. Oh yeah, there's a pretty key mayor race between Omar Feta and Jacob Frey. That'll be an interesting race to look into as we go forward. I believe Washington also has a mayoral race in Seattle. The Seattle mayor race should be pretty close. Kind of surprised there's no New York Times results. Let's see if we have any Michigan election results from Michigan. So let's see if we have anything coming in. I guess I'll just throw up the Detroit News here. Oh, yeah, it doesn't look like anyone has any cool maps or anything like that. But as expected, it's now they're saying that my ad blocker won't let me use it. Well, we're not going to use the Detroit News then. Let's see if the Detroit Free Press is a little bit less irritated with my ad blocker. No, they give me the same problem. So we're gonna have to temporarily look away from Michigan results for now, and I'll find a source that will allow me to use my ad blocker because I'm not trying to stream all the ads from every local newspaper in the state. Let's see here. Now, for the record, I did recently actually pay for New York Times, so it's not like I'm just skimming off every single newspaper. Does anyone want, please feel free to go into the comments if you want me to cover a specific race. We're still getting the results to trickle in from New Jersey, but we do not have anything clear yet. And New York is going to close. The polls are going to close in 2 minutes. So it might be a little too late to run to the polls if you are in New York right now. Georgia had a few elections going on, but this one should be interesting. This is a incumbent or a special election after, I believe, there's a Houston representative who passed away, and it's going to be filled by one of these candidates. Looks like if I were in this race, I'd really want to be Christian Menefee because he's very heavily in the lead. And doesn't look like there's precinct by precinct level results yet, but I find it very hard to believe that anyone's going to chip away at that 7% lead. So it looks like he will be the next nominee and very likely the next candidate to become, or the next congressional representative. Now, I do think that this will lead into a 2-round runoff, so there's a chance that, the endorsement of third place could play a factor, but it'll be an interesting race to look into. I didn't do any research on that one specifically, so I don't want to pretend to know about it or do live research here. So in Pennsylvania, there's a few ballot initiatives and big elections going on. Looks like a lot of these are more local results that don't really have too much of an effect on anything that we're looking into. But if we're to look at these results, it looks like all of the incumbent Supreme Court candidates have a pretty good chance of maintaining their spots. Anything else in New York other than the mayoral race? So there's a few other things. The New York City public advocate race is going on. I would expect Jermaine Williams to win that. He already is the incumbent. The comptroller race, I'd expect the Democrat to win that. In the New York City mayoral race, ultimately, I don't think it'll be very close. I think Zohran Mamdani will probably win by probably around 20% of the vote. He'll probably get around 50% of the vote in total, but we'll have to wait and see. The turnout seemed to be off the charts in that election, so really never know how that's going to go. But my prediction would be this is not going to be that close of an election, and that's what I would expect. especially with the vote, the anti-Mamdani vote being split between Cuomo and Sliwa. There's just no chance that they're going to be able to muster enough to make it, I would say, even make it close. I think that this election was really decided in the Democratic primary just, I believe 3 months ago. And that'll ultimately be what decides this general election as well, I believe. Oh, that's interesting. It looks like they're already starting to get some ballots in statewide. Oh, wow. New York City Council races. Oh, yeah, these are all uncontested races. Very interesting. So, yeah, there's a lot of elections going on in New York. I mean, you have the Buffalo mayor race. You have all these district attorney elections, and the borough president of every single borough of New York. That's kind of like the mini mayor of every single borough of the city. So these people are all very key in their, constituencies as well. So all of these elections are very important. Jumping back to Virginia, where we see, let me look at the 2021 results here. So with 74% in, things have not changed that much in the percent margin. It looks like it's about 11%. That is a very big swing from what it was in 2021. So from the perception of this, politics can be very cyclical. And as we can see now, it looks like the Democrats have taken back the Virginia governor race. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a tab of Wikipedia, because my understanding is Virginia flips a lot. So I want to pull up the Wikipedia and just show how these elections have flipped over time. So give me a weird link there. So in 2025, it's already been declared Spanberger has won, and by a pretty significant margin. In 2021, this was kind of a sign of a red wave for the Republicans, where Virginia was flipped. A lot of people thought that former Governor Terry McAuliffe would be able to win the election, and he came up short despite the polling showing him pretty close. In 2017, Ralph Northam, this was seen as like a big barometer election following Trump's victory in 2016, if anyone remembers it back then. But this was a very big flip for the Democrats here. It was kind of seen as, well, it wasn't a flip. It was essentially the Democrats winning when they already had won. But Virginia, each governor is term limited to one term. So you have to always run a new candidate each time, and it can sometimes cause you to flip back. But pretty decisive victory in Virginia made some people in 2017 feel like 2028 or 2018 was going to be a blue wave, and it ended up being what they were predicting. Now let's see here. 2013, Chair McAuliffe won. That was when he did actually win. It was a pretty close race, and the Libertarian kind of flipped it. 2009, it was a Republican. 2005, it was a Democrat. And 2001, it was a Democrat as well. So as you can see, Virginia is notorious for kind of flipping back and forth within pretty reasonable margins, except for this one. This was a pretty decisive victory for the Republican in 2009 in a very kind of red wavy year after Obama won in 2008. The pendulum swung back. So now we're going to be looking into the results of Virginia now. 75% of the vote in, 11%. The other thing is this attorney general race, where a lot of people thought the Republican would win. It looks like the margin for which Spanberger is winning is too much, and Jay Jones is going to pull out on top. Jason Miyares is going to be defeated, the incumbent attorney general. Same thing with lieutenant governor race, a little bit closer than the governor race, but definitely no luck for the Republicans here. The incumbent lieutenant governor, I believe, is Winsome Earl Sears, who was elected alongside the tickets back in 2021. So she'll be ceding her position. And it's already been called for the lieutenant governor as well. So now, as we can see in New Jersey, we have 43% of the votes in, still no call in the race. So we're going to pull up the 2021 results and the 2024 results and compare them. Let's see if we have a county that has a lot of ballots in, because I think what this is something you'd kind of consider a blue mirage right now, where the total amount of ballots that have been counted already are more leaning towards the Democrats, and there's more election day ballots to count for the Republican. If that isn't the case, and the Democrats actually won by 13, that would be a horrible night for Jack Ciattarelli. But I would caution anyone thinking that I believe this is going to be a little bit closer, maybe 5 to 6%. It'll be cratering as these other counties come in and as the election day ballots come in. So Monmouth County is a good barometer to use because 87% of the vote is in. That means we can more directly compare it as we have a much larger sample. Let's see Monmouth County in 2021. 59% went to the Republican. Here, only 54% went for the Republican. So unless that last 10% is all Republican ballots, this is pretty horrible result for Jack Ciattarelli, or I don't know how to pronounce it. I might have to look that up right now, just so I don't sound like an idiot. How to pronounce? Let's see here. Oh man, Ciattarelli, not Ciattarelli. I should know better. Okay, Ciattarelli is not right. It's Ciattarelli. Okay, so yes, it's looking very bad for him. He's down 13% now, and in some of the counties where all of the ballots are in, he is running behind by 4% from a result he already lost. So I would say it's almost guaranteed. I would call it right now, even with 40% of the votes in. Mickey Sherrill is the new governor of New Jersey and is going to be following in Phil Murphy's footsteps. Ooh, wow, an even bigger ballot drop to make that a worse lead. Yeah, no, I think that this is definitely over. New York Times is holding out because there's a lot of ballots to be counted, but that is definitely not a lead that I think that Ciattarelli is going to be able to come back with. Mamdani is plus 15 to Cuomo with black voters. Yeah, that is something definitely big to consider here. Already, 36% of the votes in. I really love when elections come in fast like this. That is a horrible, horrible result for Andrew Cuomo. Now, one thing, it does seem pretty clear. Mamdani did get the majority, but a lot of Republicans did not turn out for Sliwa in the end. A lot of them ended up voting for Cuomo. That might change as election day votes come in. I'm not certain. And there might be some differences in the final result, but it looks like my thought that Mamdani would probably get 50 to 55% would be pretty accurate. And I expect that to hold here. I mean, maybe it'll crater a little bit, but even with a lot of Sliwa's support, it does not look, or not Sliwa's support personally, but Republican voters in New York, does not look like Cuomo will be close. Now, I was expecting Cuomo to have more like 30% of the vote and Sliwa would have more like 20% of the vote. But it looks like there was a massive shift after Trump endorsed Cuomo, or kind of reluctantly endorsed Cuomo. I wasn't expecting it to shift that much, but it does look like a lot of the anti-Mamdani vote did consolidate around Cuomo. He's even winning Staten Island here. So that is something that was a little bit unexpected, but for a lot of Democratic voters, it looked like they ultimately voted for the Democratic nominee, and there was a large independent contingent that voted for Cuomo, and then the Republicans still came out for Sliwa. But as of right now, I would definitely say that Mamdani has this locked. Now, he might not be running up the margins as much as he might want to, but that's with a lot of Brooklyn to still be counted. So let's try to pull up the New York Democratic primary results. I don't think there's been a call for New Jersey yet, but we already know who's going to win now. I say it's all but over there. I don't think there's any other elections going on there. There might be a couple others. Let's see. They have a state legislator. I think the Democrats are probably going to win that out. But New York is probably what everyone wants to see right now. Let's see what the primary results were. No, don't give me the live results. Give me the primary results. Yeah, it's hard to find the old results because all of the new ones. Here it is. Okay. So 56-43 in the end, with Mamdani winning Queens, Brooklyn, and Manhattan. But now it looks like Mamdani is winning in the Bronx, which is kind of where Cuomo was strongest. And that's where a lot of the this dynamic that my friend Steven was posting about earlier, a lot of black voters in New York, it appears, some of which may have voted Cuomo in the primary, ultimately chose to vote for the Democratic nominee in Mamdani in this mayoral race. And if the Bronx is still in Mamdani's pocket, is flipped into Mamdani's pocket, there's really nowhere Cuomo can run his margins up to win this election. Manhattan is a lot closer than I expected, but it looks like almost nobody in Manhattan is voting for Sliwa. There's a very big divide between the Cuomo voters and Mamdani voters there. But in Queens, Mamdani was a little bit less than 50. I didn't really expect that, but there's still definitely more votes to be counted. And another thing is these boroughs have constituencies all over the place. So a lot of votes to still be counted. We're not 100% certain how the end result will be, but a lot more ballots in Brooklyn to be counted, and that is going to push up Mamdani's margin because he seems to be performing the best in Brooklyn. Sliwa did the best in Staten Island, but ultimately, I think the Trump endorsement did sway a lot of New York Republicans to go for Cuomo in the end. So we'll continue following that as results come in. But I would call it now, Mamdani is going to be the mayor, but it might be a little bit closer than some people thought, depending on how the last of the votes sway. Now, one thing that is pretty key about what people were saying in the primary was that the early votes were going to be heavily different from the votes that were counted election day. And that was not the case at all, actually. Mamdani ended up swinging very heavily in the lead, even more so than when he was before. So we'll have to see if that dynamic stays in this election in the general. Not too sure yet, but I think there's more ballots to be counted, a lot more ballots to be counted in Brooklyn, and a very, very bad sign for Cuomo is he's not winning any borough other than Staten Island. And Staten Island does not have the population to swing this election. Still no call for New Jersey, despite it being very decisive here. There might be a lot more votes that need to be counted or something. But it's starting to tighten up a little bit. Let me see if there's any counties that are in pretty heavily yet. No, there's still a lot of ballots to be counted. Oh, it's tightened a little bit for Mamdani, now 50%. Let's see if I can get okay. In the primary, ultimately 500,000 or 573,000 people voted Mamdani, 440,000 voted Cuomo. So we're going to have to see if that margin continues here. It was really interesting because a lot of polls did not catch Sliwa being this far down in the polls. The one was Atlas Intel, which had the race a lot closer than a lot of people were expecting. But I do think the Trump endorsement of Cuomo caused a lot of Republican voters to ultimately swing. One of the elements of the results that we can see is that 60% of Staten Island is in, which is going to be Cuomo's biggest bastion of ballots. And I expect as the other counties or boroughs of New York start coming in, the results will flip accordingly. So it is tightening a little bit in New Jersey, 1% already. But if you look at the 2021 results, Cheryl is only 300,000 ballots from her from Philip Murphy's result in 2021, and Chattarelli is already like almost 500,000 ballots behind. So I just can't see that margin being caught up in anywhere near. Now we have full Monmouth County, and this is what I was saying earlier. That is an 8-point shift in both directions, and or in ultimately in the total result. And if he isn't beating out his 2021 numbers, in fact, he's losing his 2021 numbers in these counties. There's no chance he has in winning. I'm actually amazed that they haven't called this race yet. And they're already calling some of these. I guess they haven't called too many of them yet, but I'm amazed that they haven't called this race yet, because I have called it for sure. Any specific results that people want me to cover, please comment, because there's plenty of things we have to go over. Let's see. Anything interesting? I think Georgia had an interesting election. Georgia. This is going to give me a ad block thing, isn't it? Okay, let's see. These are just like really weird elections. they're like public service commission. I don't know. I don't really find them to be that interesting. But I also think there's an Atlanta mayor race. That'll be pretty big. Let me see if we have Atlanta mayor results. A lot of mayoral races are happening right now. Oh, doesn't look too interesting. Let me see if I can get any Michigan. Okay, so the Detroit results. I don't know if any of the Michigan results are out yet, because I'm not seeing anything. As expected, it looks like Sheffield very heavily won that race. Should be some interesting city council races in Detroit. But yeah, there's mainly just mayoral races all throughout Michigan. Maybe a couple millages here and there, but yeah, not too much interesting stuff going on. Let's see if New York is any more interesting. So yeah, as you can see here, New York is pretty close. Not as expected to be. An 8% margin. I would say that's still pretty bad for Cuomo, but he's outperforming what a lot of people thought with the Republican support. So the complete cratering of Sliwa's support is pretty evident here. And I think a lot of people made the ultimate decision to vote against Mamdani. But with the results showing what they're showing, I would expect Mamdani to still clear out the election unless Queens flips. Anyone have any New York specific questions here? Let's show 2021 New York mayoral election. Definitely a lot, much more of a race than we thought. But ultimately, I do not see Cuomo making up that margin. Yeah, in 2021, Eric Adams got around 67% of the vote. Sliwa only got 27% of the vote, 28% if you round up. So with that, it's a very competitive election. I think there's already more votes cast. Extremely high turnout. Let me see how many votes were cast in 2021. Yeah, only 1.1 million. Already 1.1 million with 50% of the votes in. Now, as you can see in this public advocate race, Jermaine Williams completely mopping the floor with the Republican here. Same thing with the comptroller race. You might credit her a little bit, but I'm not sure. Most of the results are still coming out of Staten Island. And I think Brooklyn still needs to come out. Yeah, a lot more votes just came in. And it got a little closer, but not close enough for it to make a big difference. Might actually be a closer margin. It might be more like 6%. But I'd still say with 60% of the vote in, Mamdani is a healthy lead. The high turnout, it does appear, may have benefited Cuomo in the end, though. Maybe a lot of people were, coming out to vote against Mamdani. And I do think the ultimate endorsement in the end might have swung a lot of Republican voters to come in and vote for Sliwa or vote for Cuomo. It is pretty interesting because a Sliwa dropout could really definitely influence this race. But I also do think that the Sliwa holdouts are people that are potentially less likely to vote for Cuomo in the end, just because they're more hardline Republican voters that may not like Andrew Cuomo. Nothing out of California in Prop 50 yet. The polls are still closed, or the polls are still yet to close. Virginia is getting even worse for the Republicans. 13% margin. That is a huge Democratic flip. As you could see, just in 2024, nowhere near that. 2024, it was 52%, and now it's 56%. I mean, that's a 8% shift across both margins. And I would actually call this attorney general race right here. I think that it's all set in stone for Jay Jones. That's a flip. So it's going to be a hat trick race for the Democrats in the Virginia elections. As we can see right now, it also looks like there have been quite a few victories for the Democrats in the House of Delegates of Virginia. I would expect that to continue to show. I think the Democrats have probably solidified the House there. So New York is actually turning out to be a lot more of an interesting election than people thought. Perhaps this is the Atlas Intel poll that did have it as a closer race. Perhaps they were correct in making that evaluation. Still an 8% margin. It could tighten a little bit, but as we can see, the places in which votes still have to come, Queens, the Bronx, Manhattan, and Brooklyn, they're not exactly places that Cuomo has a sure shot of winning. I mean, he might be able to win Queens if a lot of the election day ballots are different than the mail-in ballots and early voting ballots. But I would not bet on Cuomo being able to swing this margin with 60% of the vote in. He would need a much bigger margin to carry the day. Going to be it is a little bit unexpected that many Sliwa voters did route to Cuomo in the end, and I believe that the Trump endorsement ultimately did help Cuomo, which is something that was not really expected. It was kind of expected that would irritate a lot of Democrats that were leaning towards Cuomo to vote in Mamdani, but I think a lot of people who wanted Cuomo stayed with him in the end. But I think after this election, he might have to give up politics. So with Virginia, that's pretty much all set. Let's see if there's any other elections that are coming in. This margin just does not make any sense. Oh, they called it. Yeah, Mickey Sherrill is the new governor of Virginia, or governor of New Jersey. 2 elections going on today. Mickey Sherrill has been called something we already seem to kind of know with how lopsided this election is. I expect there's still to be a lot of ballots to be counted and this lead to crater, but with 63% of the vote in, 15% is just way too much. That is a very disappointing loss for Chattarelli. And yeah, I mean, they're going to have to run someone else. You can't just run the same guy every 4 years and expect him to win eventually, especially in a year where Democrats are more galvanized to vote. A lot of polling missed it being this much of a landslide. I expect it to crater a little bit more going forward. And this is another. So we now have 70% of the vote in New York. That's with a lot more votes in the Bronx and Manhattan coming in. This is the death knell for Andrew Cuomo. He was definitely hoping that Mamdani's lead would go down in Manhattan and Brooklyn as election day votes get counted. Election day votes, mail-in votes, and early votes may all be a little bit different. Usually, the batches and the demographics of people who choose to vote in each one of these ways varies very heavily in American politics, and each community coming out could actually mean. When they count the ballots, it could lead to huge sways in what the final result is. But with 70% in, I would call it right now. I don't think Cuomo has nearly enough ballots to catch up. I mean, 70% in Queens alone. I don't even think Cuomo wins Queens. All Cuomo was really able to manage in this election was to kind of consolidate Sliwa's vote. So he was able to get a large independent contingent that might, his Democratic primary voters, in addition to maybe some independents who are wary of Mamdani or maybe, just wanted to vote for an independent or their former governor. And he was able to get a lot of Republicans to come out and believe in a campaign where they could defeat a Democrat. And it just does not look like it's enough. Ultimately, a lot of some of Cuomo's voters in the primary might have flipped over to Mamdani. I think that the exit polls are kind of showing that with black voters in New York. Cuomo won the black vote very heavily in just 3 months ago. And it appears that a lot of the black vote that Cuomo was depending on in the primary flipped to the Democratic nominee, which is Zohran Mamdani, in the general. And 30% still left to go, but you do not want to be Andrew Cuomo right now. Even if you make it a little bit closer, it's still losing the election. And that comes after a very hard, he had to resign in disgrace from being governor. He was kind of expecting this reentry into politics to be like his saving grace in his political career. I mean, he was a disgrace just 2 years ago. And now he is back into the dustbin of history, losing another election. Well, he never lost an election. He had to resign in shame. And now it has just been called by the New York Times. Zohran Mamdani's won in New York. I think that is all for that. That's all she wrote. And the thing that you want to watch for here is the margin that Mamdani clears. So that call is huge. That means that based on all of the projections, a lot of the people who do this for a living have looked at all possible avenues for where Cuomo could still have votes, and he just doesn't have any path. Usually they don't call it an election unless it's going to be at least 5%. So, yeah, there's no way Cuomo's going to be able to make up that margin. And what you are going to want to look for here is what is the final margin that Mamdani gets. I would say it would kind of be bad for Mamdani if he ultimately gets less than 50, because everyone expected him to kind of dominate. He is the Democratic nominee in New York, and he was polling so heavily ahead of everyone else, even with the consolidation of Sliwa voters to Cuomo. Less than 50% would kind of seem a little bit underwhelming for Mamdani. But as we just got another batch of 6% of the votes in, a little bit from Brooklyn, a little bit from Manhattan, maybe some from the Bronx, Mamdani actually increased his lead. I would expect, if that continues, I would expect him to end around 51% of the vote. That's exactly what he needed. And while Cuomo did make that margin closer by winning a lot of Sliwa voters in the end, a lot of people figured that their votes were better spent on Cuomo than Sliwa if they were going to waste their votes. Even if he got every single Sliwa voter, it doesn't look like he would have beaten Zoran Mamdani. So another kind of devastating loss, not as much so as in the primary, but pretty bad for Cuomo again. Now we still have California to look into, but that is another hour and a half until those results are going to come in. So going to be some time there. Anyone have any specific races that, oh, this is pretty big. This is the Minneapolis mayoral race. It looks like it's very close between Jacob Frey and Omar Fatah. And it looks like there's some other competitive candidates here too. I'm not sure if this is one winner take all. Let me see. But is the Minneapolis okay, maybe the Wikipedia would be the best. Sorry to be doing research during the stream, but I didn't expect to cover this one as heavily. Minneapolis uses instant runoff voting, also known as ranked choice voting. So you have 4 candidates, and ultimately we'll see what the first result is, and then we'll see how different people rank in the end to see how the final result is going to be. From what I can see right now, this is not really not enough ballots in to really say anything, but the projected race between Frey and Fatah is here, and that will get a little bit more close over time. Okay, that's an interesting one, though. Kind of happy to pull that result. Let's see if there's any new information in this Maine election. So yeah, the does not look like Maine's going to require people to have voting IDs. Looks like pretty resounding defeat there. And also it looks like there's been, changes on their gun laws. So it's going to make it harder for people who are extreme risk to get guns, probably people with restraining orders or that type of thing. Interesting result. Okay, let's see if there's anything here. Oh, New Hampshire had some state house differences here. This is the first time in 56 years that voter turnout in New York has exceeded 2 million. That is a very massive statistic. And it just shows that, ultimately this was a close race. Not a close race, but a very polarizing race. A lot of people came out that didn't normally come out. A lot of people felt very represented by Zoran Mamdani. A lot of people, wanted to vote against him. And Cuomo was a, kind of a stalwart. I don't know if stalwart's the right term, but he was a very big Democratic figure in New York State politics for decades. His dad was the governor. He was the governor for over, I believe, 10 years. And when he was even considered a presidential candidate at one point. And then he had a lot of scandals hit him. He had the, nursing home scandal where a lot of people were kind of believed to have died wrongfully as a result of his policies regarding COVID in nursing homes. And then he also had a lot of, sexual misconduct scandals, which tainted a lot of people's opinion of him. And he wanted it to be his comeback arc election, and he just could not do it. He lost the primary when he cleared the field to try and he cleared the field of, like-minded, more establishment Democrats. And he ended up losing to an upstart progressive in Zoran Mamdani, and tried to run again as an independent. He tried to get everything he could. He got incumbent mayor Eric Adams to drop out of the race and endorse him. He got Trump to endorse him. Curtis Sliwa couldn't really, keep his own voters from flipping over to him, and he still couldn't do it. And that's because Mamdani ultimately brought out 1 million people to vote for him in a pretty unprecedented manner. As we can see right now, 1.8 million votes, only 100,000 more would be needed in order for him to hit 1 million. I think we can already say that he had 1 million people come out. New York is a city with only around 8 million people, if I remember correctly. It's getting an eighth of the city to vote for him, and that's including, kids and all kinds of different people in that statistic. So to get this big of a turnout, you have a lot of people voting against him, but it is good to see this many people being involved, having their issues and voices heard, coming out either, for or against him. This is a very good thing in local politics in America, because a lot of mayoral races are not that interesting. I mean, you can see in Detroit, while there might have been some turnout there, it was a very massive victory for Sheffield. I think it would already be, let me look it up, but Detroit mayoral race, I think it's already been called. Yep, Mary Sheffield leading in early results. It's interesting to have Kinloch there, but yeah, I'm fairly certain that oh wow, New York Times has this, but they don't have it clear. Okay, yeah, Sheffield very clearly won. Let's see if this page has anything interesting. So we have what we already know. The Virginia governor race went to the Democrat. The New Jersey governor race went to the Democrat. And Prop 50 is still to be voted on. I would say that that's going to be around 60-40. I'm not in any way convinced that'll be close. Let's see if there's any other key races they want us to look at. I tend to care a little bit more about things that aren't as important from like what the New York Times would consider. But we can look at some of these mayoral races. It looks like Frey's barely leading the pack in Minneapolis. Not exactly the coalition you'd want if you are the incumbent. It looks like there's a lot of people who don't like you if you're only getting 36%. We still have a lot of votes to count. But there could also be some consolidation around him in the end. You never know. Now, Pittsburgh very heavily went one way. Buffalo, all of these elections, it looks like the perceived leading candidate was going to win pretty heavily. I mean, let's see. Jersey City might be interesting. I don't really know anything because this is a nonpartisan race. There were some Florida elections. Miami mayor, that one was pretty big. This was pretty big because I believe that Democrat almost always loses the Miami mayor race, and for a Democrat to win now was not expected, especially when Florida is kind of seen as all all things lost for Democrats, but they might be able to still win back their, their bellwether areas of Florida as the rest of the state kind of goes red. Let me see, is Brian Calvo a Republican? That's Hialeah. Let's see. Doesn't have anything. That's interesting. I think that is actually very nonpartisan. But okay, we're going to get back to the more interesting results. Oh yeah, 69% of the vote in. Yeah, Cheryl is still winning by double digits. This is so bad for Chattarelli. I mean, Cheryl might win in the same margin that the Virginia race is in. That's crazy. I was expecting this to be a blue mirage, what I was explaining earlier, that election day ballots being a little bit different than the early vote. But I mean, right now you have a 13.5 margin, and the polling just simply did not indicate this to be this much of a landslide. There's still a quarter of the ballots left to count, so it might crater a little bit, but there just wasn't any indication that that was going to happen. Let's look at Wikipedia, because they're going to have the polls here. So yeah, as you can see, the aggregate polls had Cheryl winning by about 5%. And some undecideds, there were some polls that had it close, but most of it had it by 5%. Everyone kind of expected Chattarelli to lose, but some of these are kind of close. 1%, Atlas Intel, the most accurate pollster of 2024, and what people considered accurate pollster, an A+ rated pollster. This is really hurting their credibility if you have a 1% race and you end up being off by 10%. That really questions if people will continue to consider you the most accurate pollster. That's a big miss. And I'm not really sure if this is just a Republican turnout problem. Whenever Trump has been on the ballot since 2016, Republicans have outperformed the polls. Anytime that he's not on the ballot, with the exception of the 2021 elections, where Republicans outperformed the polls in Virginia and New Jersey in those gubernatorial elections, every time Trump isn't on the ballot, Republicans do not turn out in the margins they need to in these off-year elections. And yeah, I mean, as you can see here, I mean, this is supposed to be a 5% race where Chattarelli, maybe brings it close, loses by around 5%. As we're seeing in the results right now, this is 14%, and it could crater a little bit, but I can't see it cratering more than 9%. So that is a big miss in the polls. The Democrats are, really outperforming here. And as you can see, it's starting to tighten a little bit. I expect it to continue tightening, but anything over 10% is a massive miss in the polls and a massive, loss for Republicans, who just in 2024 were a lot closer in New Jersey. Let's see New Jersey. We just had these results up earlier. I mean, that's a 6% margin. Now it's a 10% margin in what was considered to be a close gubernatorial election. That's not exactly where Republicans want to be in a state that they had very high hopes for in the future and flipping red. And I think Chattarelli's political career is over. When he was seen as a rising star, he was seen as this more moderate Republican that could win New Jersey, come back to the Chris Christie years, but does not look like by any means that Chris Christie is going to come back to New Jersey. I don't think anyone in New Jersey wants Chris Christie to come back, to be completely honest, after that scandal where he was out on the beach when he had a state shutdown. But other than that, let's see. So Cuomo did not make it any closer, and I'm kind of expecting this to end out with Mamdani around 51 and Cuomo around 41 to 42. Sliwa really did not get any of the votes he wanted. He's losing to Mamdani in Staten Island. That's pretty big for a Republican. So that means a lot of Republicans came out for Cuomo. A lot of moderate Democrats or maybe just independents who liked Andrew Cuomo came out for him. He got 40% of the vote. That's nothing to nothing to scour about as an independent. That's pretty impressive. But if you're Andrew Cuomo, you were the former governor, you're running for a race that has less power than what you had earlier, and you lose it, that is a death knell in your political career. Now, how a lot of people, number one Chris Christie fan right here. I would not admit that. I would definitely not admit that. But yeah, let's see here. This is getting even bigger of a divide. I mean, this is a horrible loss. I mean, if the trends still continue, I mean, I was expecting it to be a blue mirage. New Jersey might be bluer than Virginia, which no one was expecting. The polling was not indicating. I mean, everyone thought that Spanberger would kind of blow Earl Sears out of the water, and she very much did. Oh my God, Jay Jones even won by 5%. This is not something that was expected. I always try to not look at other people's takes while I'm doing these live feeds because I don't want it to corrupt my live reactions. But I want to see a lot of how people reacted to this. I mean, there was polling that was showing Jay Jones was down 5% as early as a week ago, and they just completely missed it. Now, my theory for that ultimately is that when you have a down ballot race, these races, people might have opinions on them that are different. But if you're coming to vote for a Democrat gubernatorially, you might not have done research on the attorney general race. You might not really care that much. And in the end, as a result, it's much more likely the polling is going to miss this. But the polling was not showing Spanberger up 13%. There were a few that were showing maybe 10%, some 8%. But this is a big miss on polling, big Democratic victory, and Republican voters just did not turn out in the manner in which they needed in order to win these races. I can see some people kind of spinning this as a big victory for the moderate wing of the Democratic Party, where the more moderate candidates in New Jersey and Virginia prevailed. In spite of more progressive candidate like Zohran Mamdani in New York. Ultimately, I think that's kind of a pretty bad way to analyze this because ultimately, they were running against Republicans in these races, and this was kind of like an internal Democratic Party standoff in New York where you have the two factions of the party that are at each other's throats really going at it with Zohran being more on the left wing of the progressive movement as it is, and Cuomo being a very powerful establishment figure that kind of cleared the other Democratic establishment candidates in New York out of the way so he could get this himself. He even swallowed Republican voters in an attempt to defeat this more left wing of the Democratic Party. And I don't see this dynamic being as I think this is a New York specific thing, and I don't think that this should really be extrapolated. In Maine, this is another big thing. I mean, this is kind of a partisan vote on photo ID laws. Democrats tend to say that voter ID laws are, they limit a lot of people from voting, particularly people who don't have driver's license that live in cities and stuff like that, which is kind of true, and it makes it harder. for people to vote. Republicans argue that, people are committing fraud if they don't have proof. But the other thing is, it isn't just restricting IDs. It's also tightening rules on absentee voting. And this is what galvanized a lot of people to vote no on this, I think, because people might have their opinion on photo ID laws, but when it comes to absentee voting, a lot of people like being able to absentee vote, and restricting their ability to do that, or restricting their ability to early drop off their ballot 5 days before the election, it pisses a lot of people off. And, maybe if they just went for voter IDs, it would be closer, but it seems like they tried to have their cake and eat it too. And it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get away with that there. This seems like a very partisan no and yes. So my perception of this is Democrats really came out in Maine and Republicans did not, which is kind of like, this is a mini blue wave in all three big elections that were the day elections. I mean, New York, New Jersey, and Virginia. This is a blue wave in every way. I mean, you had a candidate that the sitting vice president, went on Twitter to directly attack just the attorney general candidate in this race. And he's blowing the incumbent attorney general out of the water, probably because of a lot of down ballot voters that were voting for Spanberger. But this is a huge flip for Democrats. Even a scandal-ridden candidate is carried from the coattails by Spanberger over the top. And then in New Jersey, I mean, this is unprecedented how much the Democrats won. This is a pretty big sign. I mean, you could say that Virginia, federal voters are really pissed off at the administration and maybe they're swinging one way. That would be like a big explanation for how Alexandria suburbs are voting. But I don't think that's the case at all. I think this is more of a big partisan shift in voters that are active and engaged. And it's benefiting the Democrats. Now, when it comes to these more presidential races where a lot more people are voting, Republicans might still have an edge. But I think we're really starting to see that the decreases in Trump approval and the these different initiatives, or even the shutdown to an extent, but that Democrats are benefiting in this political era right now. We're still counting ballots in New York. It couldn't have been a worse night for Curtis Sliwa. He just lost Trump's endorsement to Andrew Cuomo. Him and Trump have always had beef with each other, even for over a decade. And no one really thought he had a chance at winning. I think his political career is over. And also, I would say Cuomo's political career not looking too hot after getting beat. The crazy thing is, if you compare this to 2021, let's pull up the 2021 results right here. Cuomo got more votes than Eric Adams. He got more votes than the guy who won 67% of the vote in 2021. So that just shows how much energy was in this race. This is a hugely energetic election. A lot of people like Mamdani. A lot of people came out to vote for Mamdani. He blew his own win number out of proportion, I bet. He probably didn't expect that many people would vote. Nobody did. And very good in terms of turnout for both Mamdani and Cuomo. But ultimately, I think when you get as many people as possible to vote, it's going to benefit the candidate that was more popular. And Cuomo had popularity issues out the wazoo among both Democrats and Republicans. Still a 10% margin too. I mean, well, 9%, give or take, but not close enough for Cuomo to take that. California is still an hour away from coming out. It's going to be some time between now and then, so we'll have to wait there. More of Minneapolis is in. Doesn't really look too good for Fata right now, but we have no idea how Dwayne Davis and Jazz Hampton voters are going to rank. But even in ranked choice voting elections, you got to be careful when you're 10% down because not all voters choose to rank another candidate. A lot of people tend to just pick their top candidate. And the further down you get, the harder it is to climb up. So we'll have to check back on that later. Let's see if we have any other big races here. Colorado. I'm kind of irritated. New York Times doesn't have as many minor state elections because there are elections in every single state going on right now. A little bit of a last push for Cuomo, but it's not going to be enough to make any difference. I mean, Mamdani's going to win over 50%, and that'll be all said and done. And maybe Queens is a little bit better for Cuomo, but he only won Staten Island. And this is honestly like a map that you'd expect for a Republican versus a Democrat. Democrats carrying all the more populated boroughs and Staten Island going to the Republican. But yeah, not good for Cuomo. I want to see a, let's see, precinct level map. Let's see here. So, I mean, this is interesting. I mean, when you get into Mamdani's like Brooklyn, like if you're getting into Bushwick, this is Mamdani. I think they called it jokingly the commie corridor. But this is where his biggest coalition is. These are Assad margins here. I mean, 84% in Bedford, in Bed-Stuy, 83% in Crown Heights, Prospect Heights, 83%. I mean, that's crazy numbers here. Bushwick, this is where his, he's expected to do some of the best votes here. 90% in one precinct. I mean, this is insane margins to be polling. He got all of his voters to come out in these boroughs, or not boroughs. I don't even know what you call, like kind of mini cities, neighborhoods. Neighborhoods would be a good way to put it. He got all of his voters to come out. In the same way, I mean, Cuomo got his neighborhoods to come out. I mean, look at Williamsburg. There's a lot of wealthy people here, is my understanding. He got Manhattan to come out, a lot of wealthy people here, and pretty closer. It was closer in Manhattan than I was expecting it to be. Queens all over the place. Cuomo seeming to do pretty good in this portion of Queens, but pretty bad in the total vote margins area. So, I mean, a lot of these areas of Queens not doing well in. And just a complete rout for Cuomo in the Bronx. He was expected to do a lot better here. Now, as you can see, it's still divided. You know, this is a Democratic Party civil war. I think that's the best way to put it. And you kind of have some Republicans joining in to work with Cuomo, but ultimately Mamdani got his base to turn out. You can see in every single shade of the city, and he is carrying through with a victory, over 1 million votes, unprecedented. He's getting close to the point where he may get more votes than. Let's see. I want to see the New York City mayor race. He might get more votes than as many people voted in 2021. That is so unprecedented to turn out this many people in an election. Only 1.1 million people voted in 2021. 2025 comes, 2 million people. You can love or hate Mamdani and Cuomo, but I think the amount of people that are coming out and voting, getting involved in local elections, this is a great sign for America because we're getting a lot more people involved in our political system and in our elections here. And the more people vote, always the better. And really good on Mamdani and to a smaller extent Cuomo in getting these people out. As you can just see right now, 1 million votes for Mamdani. 1 million votes. Very massive. I mean, in these gubernatorial races of whole states, only 3 million people voted in total. I mean, probably about 3.2 when all said and done. But I mean, New York, let's see, New York, 8.4 million. Mamdani got 1/8 of the city of New York. That's including children. That's including, disabled people, a lot of people who may have limited access to voting. So the actual amount of registered voters, let's see, New York registered voters enrollment by county. I don't even know. New York registered voters in total. Yeah, I don't want to pull up random PDFs and stuff, but I would assume maybe 5 or 6 million of those people are actually registered to vote. 5 or 6 million registered to vote. Mamdani got over 1 million people out of 1 in 8 people in a whole city to vote for him. That is extremely huge in an off-year election. And, I would also say for Cuomo, he got a lot of people to vote for him as well. Now, a little bit easier to do that when you're the former governor, and it's a little bittersweet when you still lose the election. But this is crazy results. But the key thing that I'll stress on right here is this is a divided city. Because, I mean, if you look in Bushwick, 94.2% in this precinct voting for Zohran Mamdani. This area of Bed-Stuy, 80%. And you just go, 4 blocks north into Williamsburg, and it's just Cuomo City. These people could not get enough of Andrew Cuomo and, came out and voted for him in droves. There's some areas where, look at this. This might actually be a Hasidic community. I'm not entirely certain. But as you can see here, Mamdani didn't get a single, he didn't even break into the top 3 in this neighborhood. This community hates Zohran. But, statewide he's doing, or not statewide, but citywide he's doing a lot better. Very, politically divided city and very interesting to see. Not too good for Mamdani and Staten Island. He's going to have a lot of ground to cover there. In the total vote, though, still has over 50%. That's going to be the margin that he was really shooting for. And while it was closer than expected, it's not the results that, not the result Cuomo would have wanted. So now we are at 83% of the vote in New Jersey, and I no longer think that this is going to crater anymore. This is a 13% victory for the Democrat. That is unprecedented. I mean, we had Atlas Intel just release a poll, and they're looking like the Seltzer poll in Iowa right now in 2024, which had Kamala Harris winning Iowa. Spoiler alert, she did not win Iowa. I mean, they had a poll which had Mickey Sherrill only winning by 1%, and she went on to win by 13%, 13.5% if this result holds. And I don't think this is going to crater anymore. You have a lot of these counties with a lot of votes in. I don't think it's going to be any different. This is absolutely unprecedented. I have to stress this, absolutely unprecedented for a 13% victory for the Democrat in New Jersey. I mean, this was projected to be maybe 5%, maybe 8%. Exit polls had her up 8%, 9%. But when all is said and done, she's up 12, 13%. This is a blue wave year for Democrats. I would assume that they completely blow the assembly out of the water, but these results still have to be counted. Let's see how Virginia assembly votes are going. So 91% of the votes in. They've officially called it Jay Jones, Attorney General. That was, no one thought this would happen. I mean, a lot of polling was showing Mayars with the lead in this race. Ends up not even close, 5-point victory for Jay Jones. Now, like I said earlier, elections like this, they ride the coattails at the top of the ticket. So that's not really that expected. Even a scandal-ridden candidate is going to get carried. Also, I mean, to be completely honest, his scandal was just that he sent some stupid texts to some other, politician in Virginia, and it came out against him. I mean, ultimately, I think everyone makes some mistakes. He clearly 52% of Virginia thought that it wasn't worthy enough to keep him from being the attorney general. So ultimately, not a good night for Republicans. I mean, we're checking in on the House of Delegates. It looks like a red rout all throughout the state. Already 43 counted. This is absolutely not something you want to see. That means all the close races that still have to, hash it out. Almost every single Republican seat is a close race now. And that is not going to be good for them. I mean, they have a couple races here. Like this one will definitely stay red. This one will probably stay red. This one will stay red. But, this looks like a flip right here. That's not good for the Republicans. Every single seat you lose is going to be bad when you don't have the majority. This seat, definite flip. Or I wouldn't say definite, but looks pretty close. This seat looks pretty close. And that's going to run the margin. And, this looks like a guaranteed flip because 4% different with 95% in. That's an incumbent, just lost to a Democrat. As with that result coming forward, looks like Democrats are going to get a not super majority, but definitely significant majority in the House of Delegates in that state. Yeah, I don't think Bloomberg has another $3 million to throw into New York, but definitely Mamdani was not wrong in one thing that he was doing was he was not taking winning in the polls by 20% for granted, and he continued to campaign, and he was able to get more votes in the end, even with the Sliwa consolidation around Cuomo. I did not expect this. I expected Sliwa to still get 15, 20%, even with the Trump endorsement of Cuomo. And Cuomo ended up getting a lot of Republicans, and it still was not enough. And I think even if Sliwa dropped out of the race, endorsed Cuomo himself, it would not have been enough. And that is exactly what Mamdani needed. He needed essentially a complete victory of over 50%. And he definitely made it close, but with unprecedented turnout come unprecedented results. And it wasn't enough for the Cuomo coalition. Still about 45 minutes until you get a California result out. Man, this race still isn't even close. Man, Chattarelli had a bad night. I mean, this is crazy to be losing in New Jersey as much as you're losing Virginia. And I haven't even checked Virginia in a while. This is a 14% difference. 14%. I mean, polls had this around 8, 9%. Maybe a 10% would be a landslide for Spanberger. 14%, you'd have to consider that a blue wave. That's the only way you can really see this right now. A very, bad night for Republicans all around. I mean, 5.5% to a scandal-ridden candidate. Man, Minneapolis must have learned how to count ballots from Nevada because they are counting super slow. I mean, that's pathetic. Man, I wonder if there are any Nevada elections today. Probably won't know for another 30 days for how slow they count ballots. Let's see. Maybe a Las Vegas mayor or something? No, nothing looks like it. One thing that I did kind of want to get into is I think that the shutdown is going to heavily be affected by the results of tonight. And I do think that as a result of tonight's results, Democrats are going to feel very emboldened in the shutdown. That could go one of two ways. Republicans might want to concede to them on something just out of sheer nature that they didn't do that well in this election. And the other way could be Democrats might have feel that they already won. They got what they needed out of the shutdown, and a couple more Democrats will vote for the budget resolution to just end the shutdown now that the elections are over. And that is kind of a cynical way of seeing how they're handling the shutdown, which is affecting a lot of people's lives, on both sides of the spectrum there. But this definitely is kind of a 5-alarm fire for Republicans that they have to do something, because if they go into 2026, the midterm election, with this turnout, it is going to be terrible for them. They're going to lose races that they really thought they could win all around. And I'm going to have to look at some of the exit poll information to see how demographics voted. But I don't really think that really matters at all if you just see this top line amount. I mean, it doesn't matter how you're, cutting it. 13% in New Jersey, when you just 1 year ago, the margin was 6%. That's pretty bad for Republicans. And I know, ultimately, more people voted for Trump than the Democratic governor candidate here. That's definitely true. And we have to take that into account. There's a lot of silent Trump voters that just aren't showing up in these off-year elections. But that's a bad sign. I mean, your whole coalition might not show up in 2022. Or not 2022, 2026. And that would be a bad sign for the Republicans. Anyone have anything that they'd want me to cover? Please feel free to drop something in the comments here. Let's see how anyone's putting. Yeah, I really don't know how you can. I mean, would you consider it to be a bad night for Mamdani just based on the fact that, Texas amendments? Okay. Let's see. Oh, does Fata have a chance in Minneapolis? Let's see. I think right now, he definitely has a chance, because there's two ways to look at this. Three ways. The first point, I'm gonna cover the Texas amendments. I would say Fata, he's definitely not Zoran, and also Frey isn't Cuomo. I mean, people might not like Frey in Minneapolis, but he's absolutely not Cuomo. I mean, a lot of people hate Andrew Cuomo on all sides of the spectrum. A lot of people still like him. He did pretty well, but Fata has a pretty tall order in order to win this election. Now, the two ways I'd see it: being down 10% isn't good. Only 7% of the vote in. So this would just be some outer boroughs of the city that are much less likely to vote for Fata that are voting. We have no way of really knowing where these votes are coming from unless they give us a very detailed map. But the other thing is, if you're an incumbent mayor and you're only getting 38% of the vote, this is a ranked choice voting election. So that's very different from a winner take all election. Just because Frey gets 30% here means he has to also win the support of the Dwayne Davis and Jazz Hampton voters. And if these are voters who are pissed at him, pissed at Mayor Frey, their second choice, third choice might be Omar Fata. So he has a pretty good chance at winning, even though he's down a little bit. A big progressive victory in this race specifically. See, I think someone is okay. Yeah, nothing there. Okay, and then someone wanted me to look at the Texas amendments. I wasn't really sure what the Texas amendments were, but let me open that up right now. Minneapolis is counting the votes too slow to really tell, but ballot measures, technical college funding, that's definitely good. I expect that to pass just because it's just giving more tax money going to tech colleges. That's a good thing. Prohibit capital gains tax. That sucks. Essentially, that's a bad thing. Um, that's a lot of people voting to stop people from vote or stop the state from doing a capital gains tax. Pretty much no one is affected by a capital gains tax except for people with a lot of money. So it's kind of funny to see a bunch of like ostensibly poor people, voting for that. But yeah, that's definitely voted. Denial of bail requires judges to deny bail to individuals accused of certain violent or sexual felony offenses. I mean, this is passing. I would say, I mean, personal opinion on that. I'm not a crime hawk. So, I mean, I would say I would probably vote against that. But ultimately, if people committed a violent offense, a lot of them are set bail so high that they can't afford it anyway. But this is just going to make it so more people stay in jails. I probably don't support that, but it is what it is. That is something I would expect Texas to vote yes on. A sales tax for a water fund. Taxes to fund for water. I mean, I guess that's good. I don't know. I mean, you run out of. Eventually, all these taxes do add up, but that is an increase in taxes. That's just a restructuring of how taxes are used. So it isn't that, different. Animal feed tax exemption. Establish a property tax exemption on animal feed. I really don't. I do not care about that. Looks like people voted for it though. Prohibit taxes on security transactions. I have no idea what that is for, but it looks like what the weird thing about what Texas referendums are, it looks like every tax where it's like specified raise funds for something that most people like, it looks like it's passing. And then every tax where it's like stop taxing something, it passes yes. So it seems like people want funds to be raised for things that they like, but they don't like taxes. It's kind of a very contradictory set of ballot initiatives. Weird for this many propositions to be put forward on an off-year election. I would say that this is probably deliberate. Expecting not as many people to come out, but let's see. Tax exemption for surviving spouses of veterans. Yeah, of course, people vote for that. Prohibit tax on estates. Oh, that's stupid. So essentially, they're like forcing the Constitution to like block a bunch of taxes. Oh, yeah, that's pretty bad. Establish an exemption for $125,000 worth of personal property used for income production. That's bad, but this is gonna bankrupt the state in the future. But it's whatever. Really gonna continue going down here. Increase the property tax exemption on homesteads whose owners. I will say, if I was a Texas voter, I'd be pissed to go into an off-year election and have to vote on 17 ballot initiatives. This is insane, and the Texas legislature sucks for doing this. They definitely did this on purpose. Yeah, all they're doing is, making it harder for the state to meet its budget. That's from what I can see here. State Commission on Judicial Conduct. I can't see why that wouldn't pass. Increased general property tax exemption. Yeah, that's definitely, it makes sense why they did that. Establish State Dementia Institute. $3 million of this. $3 million does not seem to be that much money for a state of Texas-wide dementia institute. But I don't know. I mean, I guess you can throw that into a ballot initiative. Codify parental rights. Oh, God. Yeah, I don't really care about that. Prohibit non-citizens from voting. Wow, this is, something that very much already occurs. I mean, this is one of the probably stupidest ballot initiatives I've ever seen, I must say. I mean, non-citizens can't vote. There are like a couple municipalities in America which allow for non-citizens who are permanent residents to register for local elections, but I don't think that any cities in Texas do that. This is just a really stupid proposition because it's like people who aren't citizens are already not voting. It's just a waste of money to put this on the ballot and everything like that. But I digress there. It passed anyway. I mean, of course, people are going to vote for something that's already the law. I don't get that. Tax exemption for border security infrastructure. Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me. These results. This is an off-year election with a lot of kind of all over the place ballot initiatives. This is smart of Texas Republicans to throw in their entire policy agenda into ballot measures in one of these off-year elections, I would say, because it allows them to just get a mandate for everything they want. Now, I must say, though, I don't think I would say this is probably bad for Democrats because the Democrats are, not doing as well in these as they would want. But I don't think it's going to be any real indication on how Texas is going to vote in 2026, especially because these aren't exactly all partisan issues. But very smart of the Republican legislator there. That is a lot of shit to go through, though. I would be really pissed if I had to vote on that election. There are way too many. I mean, California Prop 50 was kind of a confusing ballot initiative, but it was one thing that you had to vote on, which is fine. 17? That's insane. Also, yeah, it looks like Menifee took the lead there, so we'll have to wait for a runoff in December to see who wins between Menifee and Edwards. I'm not sure who's the more progressive candidate in that race. Let me see if either of them have anything interesting on their websites. Maybe New York Times has a quick... Yeah, they don't have any good analysis of that. Let's see if he has anything that would indicate if he has any politics or if he just says, I am a good person and I'm running for Congress. Most of the people's websites have nothing indicating how they'll behave. Let's see who's more interesting here. This is how most political websites are. Absolutely nothing, but just a photo shot of the candidate. Okay, yeah. Texas first priorities. Guaranteeing access to healthcare. So that is so one thing you always are going to want to see when it comes to these candidates. Access to healthcare means very little in policy. That does not mean you want to establish a public option. That does not mean you want to establish Medicare for all. This isn't really anything interesting at all. This is just a kind of a what's the right term for this? It's just a buzzword. I mean, protecting and strengthening education. this is very. It doesn't give me any indication on if he's more progressive or if he's more moderate. He just is running for office, and it's all about him. That's kind of what this website tells me. Not really that interesting. Most political websites are like this because they don't want to really make themselves stand out too much, but they want to make you like them. Let's see if there's anything interesting about this one. On the issues, I did on the issues and equitable, safe, resilient, healthy. Okay. Affordable Care Act. Yeah. No one in this race seems particularly progressive. Don't see Medicare for all here, and I don't see any. I would expect this race to kind of just be a battle between the two individual candidates running and not very ideological at all. Oh, wow. Holy crap. So Minneapolis decided to release all of its ballots. So this is a ranked choice voting. I want to emphasize this again. Ranked choice voting. So Mayor Frey did not win this election. He got 42% of the vote. I would say this is pretty bad for Fatsa because he still needs the support of Dwayne Davis and Jez Hampton. But with how ranked choice voting does work, if you're the type of person that's pissed at Mayor Frey, you're probably going to vote everyone but him. So Fatsa might be able to close that gap, but I would say I would much rather be Mayor Frey than Fatsa, who's running against him. And like what people were indicating earlier, he's definitely not as popular as Zoran. I think he had, I don't know. I mean, he had a much harder race to run going against Mayor Frey there. Let me see, though, if the polls. I'm going to see the polls here to see if that's pretty close to what he was expected to get. And nobody polled. I wish that they polled the runoff. I mean, I would say that's pretty bad for Fatsa. I mean, maybe Hampton and Davis voters will coalesce behind him, but I would think it'll be pretty close unless these candidates are more progressive as well. Let's see. Opinion on Miami. I think Miami was a very good election race for the Democrats because if I remember correctly, Miami's had a Republican mayor. Yeah, Frankie Suarez. I mean, he's been the mayor since 2017. And he was a pretty partisan guy, if I remember correctly. He also had a cryptocurrency scam. Now it's back to a nonpartisan election for the most part. I mean, I guess they have political affiliations, but my understanding was Higgins was a little bit more progressive, but I'm not entirely certain. She lost her House race, and then she went on to potentially become the mayor. So, I mean, never give up. Definitely, that's a message there. Holy crap. I mean, 14.2% Virginia governor race. No one expected it to be that big of a walloping for the Democrats there. Or the Republicans there, I guess. And then Mamdani climbing back up. Sliwa still sliding down. Really bad for Sliwa there. Man, Bushwick, Mamdani plus 68. 15 for Cuomo. Greenpoint. Very interesting. Anyone else have questions? I need more people to give me some questions here. We still have the California primary coming in. Looks or not primary, Prop 50. Oh man, only one person chilling out there. Hopefully more people come back. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna message some people back. I must say, this is perhaps the absolute best result Democrats could have been hoping for going into the night. Depending on if you're a Cuomo supporter, I guess, too. If you're a Cuomo supporter, not a good result. But, I mean, absolutely huge result for the Democrats in New Jersey. I mean, much better than expected. Complete walloping for Chattarelli. And as you can see here, New Jersey already had a trifecta, It looks like, I mean, there's no way they don't get a trifecta here in New Jersey. So, I mean, Democrats have what they want in New Jersey. And in Virginia, if I never check, it looks like they've already won a majority in the legislature. And I would say not only have they won a majority, I think they're pushing even heavier to maybe not a super majority, but way more than what they had in the past. And it's a very good night for them. I just love that Sliwa never takes off his beret. I mean, honestly, like, you would think that he's the communist candidate in this race. It's very funny. Another thing that I didn't expect, usually when someone drops out of the race, you have like these diehard supporters still vote for you, especially when someone as scandal-ridden as Cuomo is the main candidate. I was expecting like Eric Adams, incumbent mayor, to get like 1% of his like biggest supporters to come out for him because he's still on the ballot. And not a good night for him. I mean, he only got 6,000 votes. Complete rout for Eric Adams. I still want to carry on the stream up until the California results, because I think that'll be kind of interesting. Let me see if there's any more interesting mayoral races going on right now. Minneapolis came in. That's a pretty good result for Frey for now, but he still could lose it. Jersey City, it's going to go to a runoff. Don't really know anything about these candidates. Sliwa rocking the beanie because he's the EFF strongest warrior. Yeah, that's very true. He is the EFF strongest warrior. The beret. Okay. Yeah, Prop 50. We're going to get California results in 20 minutes. So I'm going to still hold out until those votes still start dropping in, because I want to see how big that margin is. Yeah, this is huge. This is the biggest result for a Virginia gubernatorial candidate since 1961. And knowing Democrats in the South in the 1960s, I don't think that's the same type of Democrat as the modern Democratic Party. So this is pretty much the best result Democrats could have hoped for in Virginia. And, part of it could be federal workers in, the Alexandria Metro. But it's not just that. A lot of people all across the state are, coming out to vote. I mean, let's look at 2021 and do a direct comparison. This is what I usually do for predictions, but when you have the final results, Fairfax County, 73% for Spanberger. It was 65% for former Governor Terry McAuliffe in 2021. Absolutely insane. 64% Loudoun, 55%. That's like a 20-point flip. That is insane. Henrico County, which is the outskirts of Richmond, that's a big populated county. 59% going to 69%. 20% flip. I can't stress enough. That is a massive flip. Massive flip. Roanoke, kind of a big city in Virginia. 67 versus 57. I mean, let's look at even Republican leaning counties. I'm trying to find one with a good population. Let's do this county. 70% for the Republican. It was 76%. So even these like red wall, Republican heavy areas, they're just not turning out for they're not turning out for the Republican nominee. And I would say a lot of this is a turnout election. Republicans who came out in 2024 didn't feel the need to come out in 2025. And maybe they're dissatisfied with Trump. Maybe they don't want to vote with Trump not on the ballot. They only trust Trump. They don't trust the Republican nominee. But they came out in 2021. They might have been mad at Biden. Not very clear. They're not coming out in 2025. And that is ultimately the cause of what this race was. But I think this goes without saying. While Virginia was one of the best results Democrats could have had, it was much more unprecedented to see what happened in New Jersey. I got to pull up the New Jersey results. Let's see if I get that. New Jersey governor. It's cratered a little bit. It went from 13% to 12.5%. No one thought this race would be a 10-point race. This is a blue wave. This is a horrible night for Republicans. And this is going to have massive implications on the shutdown. We already have it confirmed that Democrats have won the House of Delegates. They have a majority. And in New Jersey, I would expect the same. Minneapolis is still close. I would expect it to take like a day for them to count ranked choice ballots. Usually that takes forever. $15 minutes until Prop 50. I'm going to try to send people around to bring them back at Prop 50. But please send me stuff to cover right now, interesting things. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, one moment. Yep. Mary Sheffield won Detroit. That is already known. A lot of local mayor races never are really that interesting. I've never really been a fan of, incumbents just storming in and, getting 80% of the vote. But they're often very hard to defeat. Let's see if we have anything more from New York. Looks like it got a little bit tighter, but nowhere near enough to change the tide. I would definitely disagree with the notion that the result in New York was like bad for progressives or bad for Mamdani. Um, I just think that it was a continuation of the inter-party civil war. I think if Cuomo wasn't in the race, Mamdani would probably get around 60%, and Slee would probably get 40%. But with him in the race, a lot of independents and Republicans, kept voting for him. He ultimately did get 50%, so even without Sliwa in the race, he would win. I'm not sure if, the governor races in New Jersey and Virginia are as indicative of, them being more moderate candidates. I think it's a lot more just a referendum on if voters trust Democrats or Republicans in these states. Now, granted, both Virginia and New Jersey are bluer leaning states, and they have a bigger amount of Democratic voters to tap into. So, very interesting. But they have more voters to tap into. So, if Democrats are energized, they're more likely to come out and, flip the margins there than they would in other states. I'm trying to see if there's anything else interesting right now. I want to hold out another 11 minutes to at least see the trickle of California results come in. I want to see what to expect. I think it's going to be 60-40. I think that a lot of people are just going to vote this partisan, and Democrats are going to vote yes, Republicans are going to vote no. But that's going to be key. Let me see if I can find anything else interesting right now. People are probably sending me interesting things. I haven't gotten on Twitter since the election. I always do like checking Twitter, but I like to keep my takes independent of how other people are thinking. But now, as we get most of the results in, let's see. Atlas A+ rating is officially dead. Yeah, I like that. Yep. Goodbye, Atlas. Oh, that's funny. Woke is back. it looks like everyone is crapping on Atlas Intel, and as they should. I expected. I kind of have a personal gripe with Atlas because everyone always says that they're an A rating, but sometimes they go some bad polling tactics. And they have really crappy what's it called crosstabs. Like it's almost like they just get they kind of assume how races are going to go, and they just find the voters to meet their preconceived notion. And Atlas has done a lot of great work in Latin America. They're pretty accurate. They did extremely good in the 2024 election, but they really are going to have to do some soul searching in America for the future here. Is Jay Jones' text messages disqualifying? Wow, still didn't matter. Landslide victory for Mamdani. It's interesting, yeah. I mean, the way that a lot of people thought about New York, I think it's differently. Because Mamdani, the way I saw it, Mamdani was already going to win the election. He just had to carry it. Now, Cuomo was able to coalesce a massive anti-Mamdani coalition. I expected it to be more like a 20-point margin where Cuomo got 30% and Sliwa got 20%. But Trump's endorsement really swung a lot of people to come back behind Cuomo. However, he has his dedicated base and he got them out to the vote. He didn't allow it to be a close election. He galvanized all the people he needed to get 50%. Is it a bad night for him in the sense that he didn't get 60? He didn't run up the tab, do as much as he possibly could have? I wouldn't say so. Is it a landslide victory for him? Yes, I would say it still is, even with how the polling was, saying he was already going to win. No matter what polling shows, you got to still knock the neighborhoods and you still have to win the election. And ultimately, that's what he did. And while Cuomo made it close, it wasn't nearly enough for him to win this election. And he lost by 9%. So his political career is over. And Mamdani's has just begun. Which, I mean, it is pretty crazy as a 34-year-old. I mean, to go and win in New York, that is unprecedented. A 34-year-old to come out, come out of 0% support in a primary in the first polls, up to 6%, up to 20%, up to 30%, beat the former governor of the state in a citywide election in a primary, and then face that guy again in the general with, as an independent candidate, with the president of the United States endorsing your opponent and still winning. And to do all of that in New York City, the biggest city in America, especially with the guy, naturalized citizen, born in Uganda, Muslim American. I mean, that is absolutely insane to pull off. And I think Mamdani deserves to have his stripes for tonight, no matter how bad or big the election people expected was going to be. People could try to say Mamdani was people could say that Mamdani was going to be, doing better than what they thought, but I don't think it matters. Another crazy stat, young men 18 to 29, plus 40 from Mamdani. Young men came out from Mamdani. This is pathetic. That's pathetic. Bill Ackman, the guy spent millions of dollars for Andrew Cuomo. Called Mamdani all kinds of things, is now saying, if I can help New York City, just let me know. I have something that Bill Ackman can do to help New York City. Number one, pay your taxes. Number two, leave. To spend that much money. 60% above 45 years old. Okay, yeah, doesn't matter. Good for Mary Sheffield. She has another big responsibility there. Mayor Wu ran unopposed, won in Boston. I just kind of wanted to see other stuff going on right now. That's why I'm just scrolling Twitter. Sliwa got demolished because New Yorkers hate animal rights. Very true. I mean, this is what swayed the election. 1829 New Yorkers, both city born and people who came into the city from elsewhere, voted Mamdani 75%. This is the first big election where the youth vote really mattered. And I think that's something that is crazy to think about, because how many election cycles do we go through as young people in this country where we see old people always come out in bigger amounts and they defeat us. And in this case, it's an example of an election where a young person really was able to get all his people to come out and win the election. Okay, 2 minutes and then California drops. Apparently some DSA victory in Atlanta. Obama's talking. Michelle Wu. Woke 2.0 is about to hit whatever the hell Hunter Biden's. Oh, man. Twitter is going crazy. This is actually a really good night for Twitter. This is a pretty good feed because all of my feed is politics right now. I mean, ultimately, what I'll say is that this is an extremely good, you can try to make an argument that Mamdani didn't have the best result that he could have had. You can definitely try to make that argument, but it's just not. I mean, you can try to make that argument, but it's just like when Labour still won in 2024 in the UK. I mean, they didn't have that much votes, but they still won the election, and everyone was still happy who voted for them. I just don't think that when it comes to a mayor that you get to serve for 4 years, this election is going to be nowhere near what it's going to look like in 2029. And he won regardless of how, people came out. I'm going to need some people to ask some questions here on what they want to cover. I know there's still 3 of you chilling out there. A lot of people thought that the early voting was showing Democrats voting for the New Jersey gubernatorial candidate. That was very much not the case. The Republican candidate, very much not the case. And now we have it solidified that both Virginia and New Jersey are trifecta states. And that's crazy. And no one thought that this was going to happen. This is complete bloodbath for Republicans. That's accurate. I mean, wow. California about to start. Oh, yep. Tell everyone to come back. Tell everyone to come back. We have to cover the most important election. Everyone needs to come back. Everyone come back. Okay. Now, I said that jokingly, but yeah, I'm not surprised tonight about any results except for Jay Jones. The polling showed that he was not going to win. He won by 5. Now, I must say, in a down ballot race, not that many people care. In a down ballot race, not that many people care. So, you can have this scandal, but I think a lot of people, everyone said some stupid shit in a text message. I think that's very clear. But it was sent 3 years ago. Everyone said some stupid stuff before. And, it kind of is like a Republican cancel culture thing. And, he didn't drop out of the race. None of the Democrats gave any ground on it. And they just got their voters to come out and vote for him. And the incumbent attorney general lost to him, a scandal-ridden candidate, because it was just that big of a blue wave. But let's see if California's coming in now. Only down to 3 people again. Wow. Had people stopping in. California is not coming in yet. I must say, though, that the result here is not that interesting. No, it's rigged. Yeah, very much so. 0-0. I'm gonna drink some water. I've been talking for like 4 hours straight. Okay, I'll say I'm more surprised about New Jersey than Jay Jones. I did not expect New Jersey and Virginia to look identical. Also, I expect the thing about dead kids is making a point about personal tragedy being. Yeah, no, that's 100% true. It's like Republicans thought that they had this like death nail on this guy. And he was just like making a really badly worded point. And it's just some text message. Like, it's not like the Anthony Weiner text where he was like trying to like hook up with like if I remember correctly, it was underage, but maybe it wasn't underage girls, but it was just a bunch of women that weren't his wife. And it was being weird and like a loser. Those text messages might sink your political career, but like some weird messages from some Republican person. I don't think. Oh, it started. Oh God. Okay. I'm missing it. Oh, wow. Sonoma County. Oh shit. 70%. Okay. These ballot results are going to drop in like flies. The only thing that I know about Sonoma County is they have a big ass casino there. So all of the casino voters came out and they voted yes. Let me pull up the 2024 map of California. Wow. Yes is outrunning Kamala Harris in Sonoma County by 3%. Let me pull up 2024 results just to put it up. This is huge. Very huge. So Kamala, she barely broke 20%. I didn't expect her to have that bad of a result, but yeah, I'm expecting it's not going to be close. Napa County, it was 66. Yeah, no, yes is outrunning Kamala by like 3%. That means Republicans didn't come out in nearly enough number. And I think yes is going to get 62% of the vote. And no is going to get like 38% of the vote. 1% reporting, it's 2% in total, but like look at this, 70% of the ballots are already counted in Sonoma. That's more than enough to get like a big okay, more than enough to get results there. It's starting. Okay, yes. I want to see more results. I want to see my ballot get counted. Come on, San Mateo. Gotta drop your results. If you do have a different website that has the results up quicker, send it to me. I don't know. I'm just not the biggest Decision Desk fan. I prefer the New York Times formatting. They've always been OP. If it flips Fresno, let's see how Fresno looked. 5147. It could flip Fresno. Let's see. Let's look at some other places it could flip. I mean, look at all these like super close. I guarantee you it wasn't as close in 2020. Let me see. Yeah, look at how blue Biden made the state. 63%. Holy crap. I didn't remember how bad he won in California. That is insane. He got like it's a 29% victory. So I'm expecting the California result for yes on the prop to be a little close, like to be in between Kamala and Biden's results. So let's minimize this and go back here. So we're starting to get some red areas of the state in now. Madera County. How did Madera County vote? 5938. Well, now it's 5644. How did it vote in 2020? 5443. So honestly, yeah, it isn't as good as Biden's numbers where he just absolutely ran up California as much as Democrats could possibly do it. 11 million votes. But wow, 11 million versus 9 million is a crazy drop off. A lot of people were not enthusiastic to vote in California. But so, yeah, as we can see in 2024, that is. But as we can see, we're getting a lot more counties. Contra Costa County, 72%. And let's compare directly with 2024. 67, now it's 72. So they are running up the numbers for Prop 50. And if we're viewing this as like a partisan race, which it isn't, Um, okay. Should we compare this? Is it a one-to-one comparison? It isn't the best way to do it, right? But it still can be because this is very partisan. Pretty much every Democrat in the country endorsed yes, and pretty much every Republican endorsed no. Um, did a lot of Democratic voters who are principally against gerrymandering vote no on this? Probably. Um, I couldn't see any Republicans why any Republican would vote yes on this. This is just giving more power to Newsom to be able to kind of leverage. So I would say, if anything, anyone voting no on this is either a very principled Democrat, probably like 2 to 3%, or a Republican voter who knows that as a Republican voter you're going to be negatively affected by this. But yeah, we just got San Bernardino County in, and let's compare it to 2024. This is a red county in 2024. It's looking like they're voting yes. Now, take this with a grain of salt. Some of this might be early votes and mail-in ballots, which are going to be more partisan lean to the left. But that's exactly what Democrats needed to pass this. I would say yes is already. I mean, 22% of the ballots are counted. I would say that's enough for me to say that yes won. San Jose, which is Santa Clara County, and a pretty good 8% total shift towards Democrats. Or, I mean, it isn't really Democrats, but it is a ballot referendum. Is this kind of I mean, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Prop 50 because ultimately I'm against gerrymandering. But when it does come to Texas being able to do it without a Democratic vote and California doing it with a Democratic vote, I think you do allow people to vote on things like this. And it's kind of a way of, what's it called? It's a way of seeing public opinion. Now, I don't know if you were able to see some of my takes earlier, Philippe. I know you're in the chat now. I mean, Democrats haven't won in a gubernatorial race by this much since 1961. So this is the best possible result Democrats could have gotten in Virginia. The best possible results. Yeah, that's how a lot of Democrats think that's true. But, and if you think about it, 1961, very different time. Very different time. I would not consider myself a 1961 Democrat. So this is pretty much, up for modern Democrats, the best result they could have gotten. In New Jersey, same thing. The polling had this within 5. Atlas Intel had it within 1. And the Democrat won by 13, 12, 13. I thought it was going to get closer. It never did. It never got closer. This is crazy. Now we're also seeing in Prop 50, it's starting to get as many votes. Okay, my vote was counted. I'm not going to reveal how I voted on this, because I don't know. I don't feel like I should. But Prop 50 passes. It was just called. It looks like Democrats exceeded optimistic expectations. So yeah, Orange County was historically like a red county. I mean, Kamala still did win Orange County, but only by 3%. It looks like Prop 50 is winning by way more than 3% now. So Democrats came out, Republicans did not, despite all this the money that was spent on it. Let's see. Yeah, San Mateo County, that's where I live. 76% to no or to yes. And in comparison, 74% went to Kamala. So I think this is a turnout election, and Democrats are more galvanized to vote yes than Republicans were galvanized to vote no. Called in 15 minutes. I mean, I would call it before 15 minutes, but yeah, I mean, polling alone will show it. It's outrunning Kamala's numbers. I mean, and Kamala won by 20%. I would say this is going to win by 25% easily. We just got Alameda in. Alameda, 81. I mean, Assad margins here. Yeah, Stephen, you were asking if like all these like counties will flip. It looks like they will. I mean, Imperial County went to Trump, and look at that. I mean, crazy margins. I mean, only 34% in, so take it with a grain of salt. But you know, these like places where nobody lives in, looks like they came out in full force against it. But Lassen County, Butte County. Yeah, they came out in full force against it. But I would say the reason why rural counties are mad about this is because they're not going to get any say. 50% no. Yeah, Placer County. Yeah, I mean, these are counties you would not expect to be blue bastions. Placerville used to be called Hangtown. Yeah, no, that's how big it is. Blue Nami, yeah. Ooh, Sac just came in. That's a net 8% flip as of right now from Kamala's results to no. So it looks like the people who voted for Trump, it's evening out. So like the amount of people who voted for Trump did vote no. But the gains, like all of the independent votes that didn't vote for Kamala, and just the way that turnout's working is working in the Democrats' favor. With that, yeah, I mean, all of these counties that are coming in, everything is just showing that yes is passed. I mean, this shows the margins right here. Oh my God, Los Angeles just dropped. Plus 50 margin for yes as of right now. I think there's more votes to be counted there, but I mean, it's outrunning in a lot of counties here. I wish I could sort them by percent in, but yeah, yes is now at 66%. Oh yeah, that is absolutely what Trump gets for deploying the Guard to Los Angeles. Yeah, it's going to hurt all of your Republican nominees in all of these districts. And what this is a sign for 2026, sometimes when states gerrymander, there's a local backlash. And, you know, you see that in races that would be, you know, normally a pro whatever party they usually vote for get mad and they vote for the opposition to who is gerrymandered, essentially. I can't see that happening in 2026 with these results. These are the worst possible results you could expect for Republicans to be getting right now. Especially in a state like California where, you know, they have all this speculation that they're gaining support because people are mad at Newsom or people are, you know, mad at Democratic leadership. All of that's out the window right now. And so much for the Republican push to get Democratic people, like Democratic leaning voters, to vote for it. That was a big, not not successful. They spent a lot of money to make this a partisan race, and they just found that there's a lot of Democrats in California still. We kind of have the final results for New York, pretty much as final as we'll get it. Mamdani cracked 50%. That was what he was really going to need to have a mandate, and I think that's just enough for what he needed. We're going to jump now to New Jersey again, 13.5%. The turnout. Let me pull up the 2020. Wikipedia usually has good turnout. So turnout in 2021 was 24%. Now that's pretty bad, but you have to understand in mayoral elections, it's usually like 10 to 20% in how many people vote. Big city like New York, more people are going to turn out. But in off-year elections, a lot of people can't be, they just don't care about these races. But in this election, I mean, let me count how many ballots there are cast. 90% of the votes in, at least 2 million. If we're gonna, I would say that there was about 48 to 50% turnout once every ballot's cast, which is a doubling. Oh, did Mamdani get most votes to ever become New York mayor? That's a good question. Let's try to investigate that. De Blasio only got 800,000 votes. Bloomberg never touched it. I think Mamdani got the most votes ever for a New York mayor. He definitely got the turnout up to something that it hasn't been since the 90s. Let me kick back to see. Dinkins got pretty close, and then Giuliani. Another thing, though, I mean, a lot of people in New York, are, a lot of the people who live there are permanent residents. They're not citizens. They're not able to vote. So the total population of 8.5 million, a lot of them aren't citizens. But this is registered voters, so let's see. There was a guy who got 1 million votes in 69, 1.1 million in 65. Let me see if the population was comparable, though. That is interesting. Yeah. Let me see how populated it was in the 60s. Oh, wow, there were more people there. There are more people there now. So there were more people participating in the process. I mean, 80% turnout, that's crazy back then. Oh, yeah, 61. I don't think Mamdani's going to beat that. Yeah, it used to be that people just came out to vote. Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's not going to beat 57. Holy crap, 91% turnout. This is sad. Everyone used to be political. It used to be really, it is sad to see. I don't think anyone's going to beat that. But it is going back to history. LaGuardia. Well, he didn't even get as many votes as LaGuardia's re-election. Yeah, he did. William Buckley did run for mayor of New York at one point. He didn't do very well. A lot of people ran for mayor of New York. I believe, what's his name? Yellow journalism jackass at one point did. Uh, William Randolph Hearst. But he might have ran for governor in New York. It was something stupid. I don't know. But as you can see, way back in the day. Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah. See, that's like Tucker Carlson running for mayor. Actually, William Randolph Hearst had some like weirdo leftist politics. He's like, I don't know how to describe him. Uh, it would be like if like Joe Rogan 6 years ago ran for mayor, or like if no, he's more of a media magnet. It would be like if um oh, Buckley, not Hearst. Yeah, but Hearst, it's so hard to pinpoint where Hearst would be today. I mean, the guy was a psychopath, really weird politician, like left wing, but also weird. Civic Alliance Party. He was left wing, but weirdo. New York has a very vibrant history, though, as you can see, like the Fusion Party, socialist tickets, all kinds. Recovery Party. That's Dave Rubin's favorite party. I have to say that my brain's still in recovery mode. American Labor, Dwyer, New Deal. That is the most Italian name I've ever seen. That's even more Italian. Experience Party. New York has very interesting politics in ways that like not many other parts of the country have. But yeah, Mamdani's not going to be the most voted for mayor of New York ever, sadly for him. But he is bringing high turnout elections back to New York. And this is an era where a lot of people, by left wing but weirdo, yeah, I guess Trump supporter would kind of consider that. I don't know how to consider Hearst politically. What a weirdo. Absolutely insane, though, to get this level of turnout. I mean, we live in an apolitical era in American politics. Young people do not come out to vote. And Mamdani was able to kind of at least start that initiative of getting them out to vote, getting them to care about politics, getting them to care about issues. And I think that people need to like realize that your vote matters. I mean, a lot of people might have thought Mamdani has it in the bag. I'm not going to come out. But, another 200,000 Cuomo voters come out. Not a good day for Mamdani. So it's good that, young people came out. Let's see. California might be a nice big map now. 65%. I mean, this might contract a little bit over time, but this is horrible for Republicans and horrible for Trump. And I would say that Democrats are definitely benefiting from this shutdown as much as it hurts my check. Let's hope it happens again in 2026. Well, one thing that is important is this happened in Virginia in 2021. And 2022, I'll show 2022 House and Senate election. See if I can get the New York Times because they usually have the best. This was not a red wave. This red wave, I mean, Glenn Youngkin, big red wave, got 2%. This is a 17% difference from 2025 in favor of the Republicans. In 2022, a lot of these districts they lost. I mean, Spanberger won a pretty key district here as an incumbent. She could have lost, her whole political career could have been over. But in 2022, Democrats held the line. So there's no guarantee that 2021 will turn into 2026 or 2025 will turn into 2026 for Democrats like 2018 did. But I would much rather be Democratic politicians than Republican politicians because, wow, they got walloped tonight and they got beat in ways no one predicted. This is the best, I would say, this is the best night for Democratic politics since 2018. But even 2018, this is a better night because there were some hard losses that Democrats had to accept. They lost Beto O'Rourke in Texas, and they lost the Florida governorship and Senate race. So 2018 still hurt. I mean, there wasn't a single race. I mean, some of the Texas ballot initiatives maybe Democrats feel bad about. I can't think of a single election where a Democrat would be mad about, unless you're like a Cuomo lover. So, if you're a Cuomo lover, you probably have some other problems going on. I mean, maybe if you're progressive, you're mad about Frey winning in Minneapolis, but that isn't even set in stone yet. So we'll have to wait and see how Fata does in the later rounds. I mean, I wasn't 100% expecting that to happen. Oh, Schwarzenegger realized the wind was going south on No 150 and he stopped talking about it. Yeah, Schwarzenegger, I don't think he likes wasting his time. And he probably is really mad that, like, the biggest element of his political career, getting Prop 50 passed, or not Prop 50, getting the independent commission passed just got eroded by Gavin Newsom in like 3 months. But, he just doesn't care that much. He can't run for president because he was born in Austria. So he's just chilling in Hollywood. Yeah, like dementia. Yeah, there's nothing Schwarzenegger still has going for him. I would say, is this going to happen again in 2026? I would definitely say there's going to be a blue wave. If Republicans, for whatever reason, cannot turn people out to vote in off-year elections when Trump isn't on the ballot, they haven't figured that out. They kind of figured it out in 2021, but even this, it wasn't that good for them. I mean, they barely won by 2%. It was still better than what they needed. Obviously they won the election, but they're really going to need to figure out a way to get people to come out for them when Trump isn't on the ballot. Because it looks like it didn't work in Maine. In Texas, it might have worked, but I don't really know how many people really voted in this. It felt like a very authoritarian manner. I mean, 17 prop initiatives that all pass. I mean, this is like what you expect for like a fascist society, where they force like 17 props that are all going to pass. I mean, crazy. Okay, so this is something key. So Fata and the two other candidates that were running against Frey cross-endorsed. So that's still a pretty big divide, but a lot of those voters that voted for Davis and Hampton cross-endorsed each other with Fata. So like ranked choice voting might still catch Frey And this is what I expected. I mean, if you're the incumbent mayor and you have three candidates that really hate you, that might not end well for you. Funny how not a single Republican ran in that race. They didn't even try. Okay, we're kind of getting close to where we can start winding down here. And I do need something to eat eventually. Thankfully, there aren't as many races as there were last year where I had to stream 9 hours straight. But let's see. I do kind of want to hear, post a comment on anything else that you'd want me to talk about, because there's plenty more that I can mention, but in 15 points now in Virginia. That is blue state territory. Can I condemn Hassan? No, I'm not going to condemn anyone right now. I bet his stream has quite a few more viewers than I do right now. Can you condemn my dad? I'm not going to do that. Man. Whew, that is the best possible result you could have expected for Prop 50. Like 65% nearing. We haven't even hit San Francisco. San Francisco hasn't even voted yet. Come on, Pelosi, count those ballots faster. Oh, in other news, Pelosi did announce she wasn't going to run. So there'll finally be a new representative for San Francisco. If it's quantifiable how many Democrats voted no, I mean, there would be no way. There has to be exit polling. I can look exit polling on Prop 50. A lot of the people see their vote as sending a message to Trump. Seven in 10 voters say it's important which party controls Congress. Imagine like voting and not caring which party controls Congress. Most people were convinced of Democrats. 15% at no. What it looks like, I mean, imagine being a Republican that voted yes, though. Like, do you think there's a lot of just people who didn't know what they were voting for? I mean, I would say that it wasn't really the ballot initiative wasn't written very well. Like, I think a lot of people didn't know what they were voting for, and that might be deliberate, but half of California voters say neither party's handling it fairly. That's true. Democrats are taking a more fair approach than the Republicans are. Well, I mean, nationally, that's true because they're actually giving it to a vote. Cost of living is unaffordable. And the biggest issue is the economy. This exit poll, I hate it when they write a story on it, but they don't release the results. And that is exactly what is going to happen in all of these. Majorities of all age groups: white voters, Asian voters, black voters, Hispanic voters. Wow. Look at this video. Oh wow, I might get a copyright strike. That would be great. I think I'm using what's it called? This is fair use, right? I mean, I'm commenting on the news as it's being reported. That's fair use. Yeah. Tell that to the judge. I want to get free fucking tacos to vote. Oh my god. This is the Democratic coalition right here. This is what Democrats are in this country. This coalition and then this. Oh, as soon as it loads. Wearing the Supreme hoodie. Rusal Morningstar. Yeah, that is crazy, man. Good for that family. That is cool. Oh man. And that's what this is what this is about. Democracy. Okay. I think that that is pretty much everything we needed to go. I mean, it was a blue wave to the core, unexpected blue wave. Mamdani, um, I mean, I'd still use landslide because like he got 50%, and he also walloped the the not incumbent but former governor. And Prop 50 passed, and we'll wait and see about Minneapolis in the next couple of days. But I think I'm wrapping it up. That is all for today. Um, I'll be back with the next elections that are going to come up. But this is a pretty good barometer on where people are across this country, I believe.